Bored teenagers picked the worst places to hang out, of course. This was the east end of the Long Island, where all the teenagers are bored. There's nothing to do during the day if you're into the sun and surf, and even less the evenings. Summers are full of tourists, traffic, and nightclubs. Convertibles still running outside of stores. The rest of the year, it's all quiet, and in the winter, desolate. I was out with a group of friends that night. Well, they weren't really my friends, but we hung out. They'd always drag me somewhere creepy in the dark to get high. Usually it was someplace in the woods where I can't see my head in front of my face. One time it was old bedding track that had been condemned, and then there was the obvious one, a cemetery. Nothing says buzzkill like being surrounded by dead people. Sometimes I wasn't sure if I was better off than staying home alone. By far the worst place they took me was the site of the Montauk Project, an abandoned military base where people claimed they did experiment with time travel and mind control. If that wasn't disturbing enough, the guy who took us there, Mike, told all of his bullshit stories about feral people living in tunnels. We even went up to the roof 10 or so story building that it was rusted and decaying inside. Not only I am afraid of heights, but the roof was slopped on all sides, which made me feel like I was going to fall off. "This is kind of creepy. Where are we going?" I asked, hoping it would be a tame comparison. "We're going to an abandoned house," said Mike. Much to my dismay, people had often tried getting me to go to abandoned houses, but I've always refused. At least one of those other houses were near a main road, but wherever we were going on far off the beaten path. We had been driving for a while in the pitch black, down some road that I felt like endless. I couldn't see in front of us either, since our car was blocking the view, and Mike was driving pretty close. "It's not really abandoned," Jeff said, from up in the passenger seat. "It's just empty. It was built recently, but I guess they haven't finished some stuff, like the wiring and the locks." I wondered why anyone would build a new home in the middle of nowhere. There was nothing but trees lining the road we've been on, and it was a long road. I was relieved to hear that the house was new, since abandoned houses were usually decrepit and falling apart. They reminded me of places you should never go to, places where horrible things lurk in corners and under creaky floorboards. And let's not forget the splintery wood and nails just jutting out in all directions, just waiting to pierce drunken teens in the darkness. In the back seat were two alternative hippie girls. I think the first time I met them, but I'm not sure. Some people were memorable, while others were just people. Mike and Jeff would probably just hook up with them, but I doubt they'd succeed. "Oh my God, this is going to be so cool!" one of the girls proclaimed, while the other giggled. "Cool, huh?" I wasn't convinced. I suppose when you're an outgoing person placed with excitement, you have to travel to empty houses in the middle of nowhere to get your kicks. As for me, outgoing wasn't my thing. When we finally pulled up to the house, the first thing I noticed was the uneven ground all around it. Nothing says unfinished home, like piles of dirt, unfilled holes, and a view of the foundation. At least the architraves was nice and simple. It was basically like a quasi-monastery rectangular with a lot of tall windows. I was jealous of my friends who had modern homes. My parents had to differ and to go to a country charm. Once both drivers shut off their headlights, I was all black. All was black. We filled out the cars, and a couple of people with flashlights led the way out to the house. "Oh shit!" someone shouted. It was Melaine, one girl that I had actually talked to a little before. She must have rode in the other car because she used to go out with Mike, and now things were a little uncomfortable between them. I really don't know the guys in order of her car, but at least I know Mike and Jeff and Melaine. "Watch out for these holes, guys. I just stepped on one and flipped and almost broke my foot." The girls guided Melaine for the rest of the way up the sliding glass door, where Mike opened it, and we went inside. It was your typical middle-class Long Island home. The walls were blank white, devoid of any fancy trim, with the shiny floor wooding that didn't quite look real. There was a kitchen to the left, and it had a huge room to the right, with two-story building. The front wall consisted of mostly large, paneless windows, while back of the wall was solid and bare. Stairs led up to a secondary story, complete with the indoor balcony. In the far corner of the room was the only furniture, a ratty couch and a broken armchair that both looked like they had came from a junkyard. They sat in front of the fireplace, with small stacks of paper strewn around them. By the looks of it, someone had been squatting here. I assumed it was Mike and his friends. "Why is there furniture here?" I asked Mike. "I don't know. It was there when we found the place. The rest of the house is totally empty. Those papers weren't there long enough." "So that's weird." My typical response to unusual things. The last thing I wanted to find in that house was something unusual. Without the flashlights, it was too dark to see, and I hate being in unfamiliar places in the dark. At least our voices echoing through the house gave me a little bit of comfort. I felt like everyone was close at all times. One of the guys I didn't know called us into the kitchen to smoke weed. We were using a really short pipe, and it ended up burning my nose with the lighter. We all burst into hysterics, which lifted up a bit of tension as I was feeling. I always seem to do something funny by mistake when hanging out with a group. Perhaps that was a way of particular gang and misfits like having me around. After we lit up, a few of the girls started exploring the house, imitated by the darkness. I decided to hang out by the fireplace where Jeff was making fire. Not having a flashlight made me nervous, and a light from the fire was a fair substitute. I sat in the cruddy armchair, sipping a beer, as Jeff was checking out the papers. "What was all this stuff?" I asked. "I don't know. Some kind of medical stuff. Look," he replied, handing me a few sheets. They looked like pages torn out from medical journals, diagrams of the human anatomy and such. Maybe there were photocopies? But in the dim light or the fire was hard to tell. It was odd that someone would bring many random papers to an empty house in the middle of nowhere, especially if it was a squatter. "I figured these would be writing a book or something," I said. "That's all what I thought. Maybe someone came here to study." "This is a weird place to study, and then just to leave it here? Creepy, huh?" "Kinda," I replied, sarcastically. By this point I was getting pretty bored, sitting on trashy furniture, surrounded by stacks of mysterious papers in a dark house, with people I didn't know that well. I've only mentioned Mike and Jeff by name because I can't remember anyone else's, except for Melaine. She was creeped out by the Montauk project as I was. So we bonded a little, and I could hear her voice called from the second floor as she and the other girls were getting excited about something. They hurried down the stairs with Melaine having a jumbo-sized sheet of paper. "Guys, check this out. It's so freaky," she elated, holding up some sort of crude drawing. It was an outline of a child in black marker. I recalled making those drawings in elementary school. A kid would lay down, and another would trace their body with the magic marker or crayon. Only in this case, the hands had been colored in red. Jeff was the first to say, "What the fuck?" But we were both thinking it. The mysterious papers were bad enough, but a mysterious drawing? For a minute I wondered if some of those guys were playing a practical joke. "It was one of the rooms upstairs," said Melaine. "All the rooms were completely empty except for this." She, along with her two friends, seemed playfully frightened. The kind of frighten you would expect from someone watching a scary movie they know it isn't real. Regarding the odd nature of drawing, it was the only interesting thing that had happened since we got there. "The weirdest part of the hands being red," I said. "It's so weird, right?" Jeff concurred. "I want to take it home," Melaine squealed. "Why?" I asked. "It's fucking scary. Why is it even here?" We had fun coming up with explanations, which helped me forget how disturbing it was. Maybe some kids were hanging out in the house and made it, but we couldn't really figure it out. Why would they have brought a huge piece of paper? Then we thought that it could have been made in school, and someone brought it to the house. Still, none of our theories could eliminate its sinister presence. Mike and the others came over to see what we were doing. Soon we were all discussing the fate of the drawing. Melaine seemed to like it, but the rest of us were more suspicious. Our excuses for existence started getting silly, as you might expect from a group in hibernated teenagers. What if it was made by a ghost? We shouldn't touch it. Maybe there's a ghost of a little kid living here, and why no one's moved in yet. Someone probably cut off his hands, and that's why they're red. Once we ran through every ghost story cliche we could think of, we came to the conscious that the drawing would say. Melaine had laid it on the armchair to make it look like she was sitting. The other girls were going up to the roof, and Melaine was asking me to come. I'm afraid of heights, remember? I was hoping that it would be enough to make her leave me alone. Last time we went up on the roof, I swore I would never do it again. Oh, come on. You've just been sitting here the whole time. Besides, the roof is really cool. You can't fall off unless you try. I gave in and followed her up to the second floor. We squeezed through an open window to the roof, where the other girls were smoking a bowl. The middle was flat, surrounded by all sides upward slants. My fear didn't come into play, which was a pleasant surprise. It was probably the coolest hangout roof I've seen. While the girls and I laughed at nonsense, Melaine was walked up the slants and peeked over so she could look down. Melaine, don't fall, the girl said, almost an illusion. Oh, shut up, I'm not gonna fall, Melaine grumbled, shining her flashlight around. For a minute she was silent, then asked, Can somebody come here for a sec? One of the girls went up to join her, and Melaine pointed at the area in front of the house. Isn't that where we parked? 5 of us went downstairs, and Melaine approached Mike and his friends. Did you guys move the cars? I didn't see them from the roof. Mike replied with a confused drown out, No. As he turned around and looked at the windows, he tried shining a flashlight but reflective off the glass. They all went outside and immediately started swearing. The cars weren't in front of the house. After circling the entire perimeter, it was confirmed that they were gone. Are you fucking kidding me? Mike yelled, his voice disappearing into the sky. I started to wonder if some kind of joke was being played. Maybe one of the guys moved the cars down the road and walked back, just to freak everyone out. No one heard them start up, though. Okay, who moved the cars? The other driver asked. I hadn't had much contact with them, and he seemed a little high-strung, so I was slightly freaked out by the possibility he might be aggressive. I didn't, did you? Mike said, looking at Jeff. No, dude, I wouldn't move your car. I let both of them alone. Seriously, guys, this isn't cute, the guy said. I want to know if someone stole my frickin' car, or if you guys are playing a joke. I could tell this guy wasn't going to put up with any shenanigans. Mike and Jeff were already caught off guard that they were being accused. Someone suggested do a pocket check, and it turns out that they still had both keys to the vehicles. This doesn't make any sense, said Jeff. We all started murmuring. This time it wasn't any fun trying to figure out the mystery. How did 2 cars just disappear? The girls were crying now. Well, not Melaine. The guys cursed up a storm, especially the driver of the second car. I have decided to dub him Angry Guy. Not his anger was justified. It was just his utmost prominent trait. I had nothing to contribute to this situation. So I just waited for everyone to figure out what we were going to do. The only thing that mattered to me was getting home sometime in the next century. It took a while to face reality. As unbelievable as it was, we eventually started walking home. Everyone was silent. The only sound came from our footsteps and the twitter of crickets. There was just enough moonlight to see the Baron's trees arching over the road. It was going to take another few hours to get anywhere that had streetlights, and we were all exhausted. Angry Guy was walking ahead. No one wanted to be near him, afraid he would blow up again once everyone was getting cranky from walking so far. Not that we could blame him. Hey, can we stop for a minute? Asked one of the girls. We collectively agreed it was a good idea, even though we've only been walking for about 20 minutes. There was a sense of denial that was still far from home. Jeff packed a bowl and we passed it around. As everyone waited for their turn into pitcher, we talked about what to do when we got home. Jeff suggested going to the police, as if it wasn't obvious. Mike started spewing some crap about how he knew people would track down the cars, like they were in a team or something. Angry Guy didn't say anything. I just wanted to go home. Did everyone get the hit? Jeff asked, making sure everyone got shafted. As everyone looked at each other and nodded, the girls noticed something. Hey, where's Melaine? Suddenly everyone realized she wasn't there. The flashlight holder scanned the area, but only trees and dirt road were seen. We each called her name several times, but it just echoed into the night air. This isn't funny, guys. Where's Melaine? We spread out a little, continuing to call her name. If she was playing a joke on us, it was in normally poor taste. Everyone was frustrated and bewildered by the vanishing cars, and this wasn't helping. "Fuck!" Mike shouted. "Where the hell is she? We can't keep going if we don't know where she is." "Dude, let's just leave her," one guy joked. "Are you stupid?" shouted one of the girls. "She's our friend, and we're not leaving her in the middle of nowhere." Maybe she went back into the house," I suggested. Everyone stopped talking for a moment, contemplating on the possibility that she did indeed go back. I wasn't really serious, though. One idiot would go back to the house without telling us. And why? After more grumbling, cursing, and arguing, we decided a few of us would go back to the house while the others waited in case Melaine was really messing with us. If she was, she would just lost some friends. I volunteered to go, since waiting for an unknown length of time seemed worse in that moment. On the way back to the house, the two girls, Mike and myself, discussed the whole situation. We had to come into the empty house in the middle of nowhere to party, only for our transportation to vanish. And we couldn't explain it. Mike came up with this theory that the cars disappearing was some sick joke, and that Melaine was onto it. He implied that he got some guys who were hot wire cars to drive them away so we can walk home. Then she ran back towards the house and they picked her up. The girls seemed offended, but they were tired of defending her, so they just shrugged it off. As we finally made it back to the house, my stomach dropped upon seeing it. I cursed myself volunteering to come back. I guess I wanted to know sooner if Melaine was okay. Approaching the sliding glass door, we were surprised to see it was open. "Did we leave the door open?" asked Mike. "I'm almost positive someone closed it," I said. "If there was any reason for it being open, it had to be that Melaine went back inside." As we entered the main room, the house felt emptier than before. I noticed a lot of the medical papers were in the fireplace, and the contour drawing of the child with red hands was gone. We searched the kitchen while calling for Melaine. It was clear that she wasn't on the first floor, so we headed upstairs. "I'm going to be pissed if she's not here," said Mike, "because then we came back for nothing." The girls just ignored him and went to search the rooms, while I split off to go check the roof. The window was still open, and I squeezed through, as if I had not expected to see her anywhere. It was here. The roof was empty and silent, with a gentle breeze blowing. I could almost see over the treetops, which made me feel stronger than my fear of the dark forest. For a moment I forgot we were looking for Melaine, until I heard the girls panicking inside, quickly squeezing back through the window, and ran up to see what was up. Mike and the other girls were looking at one of the empty rooms. "What happened?" I asked. Mike shone the flashlight on the spot on the floor. Reluctantly I approached and looked down as the girls gripped each other, sobbing. There were jumbo-sized sheets of paper, taped together to make one large sheet. Drawn marker was the outline of the girl, with only the hands, colored in red.
What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, stay pretty.